government of Japan will be committed to continue to work with Pakistani people.
It is a great pleasure and an honor to have you in our folds today. Before we start the webinar, I would like to give you a very brief introduction to Karachi Council on Foreign Relations. Sir, we are a prominent think tank at Karachi, which normally deliberates in the fields of foreign relations and economic affairs. We were founded by late Chief Justice of Pakistan, retired, Mr. Zaman Siddiqui, and after that, we have had Chairman, Federal Minister, Lieutenant General Moin, and then we had Chief of Naval Staff, who was also an ambassador, our chairing. Then we had another ambassador chairing us, and now we have Mr. Ikram Sehgal, who is our chairman. I now request one of our senior member of Board of Governors, Mr. Moin Fudda, to conduct the webinar.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege on behalf of the KCFR chairman, Mr. Ikram Sehgal, and the KCFR board to present to you the diplomatic minister of highest rank of Japan, His Excellency Matsuda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for warm welcoming remarks. And also, I'm delighted to have accepted this invitation by one of the most prestigious institutions in Karachi, Karachi Council on Foreign Relations. Now, some of you might be aware, Karachi has a special place in the memory and the history of Matsuda family. My father-in-law lived in Karachi in 1961 and 1962 as a young businessman seconded from Bank of Japan. And my father-in-law always cherished and fondly remembered his good old days, and I would say slightly wild days, which he spent in Karachi. Now, without further ado, let me briefly explain what I'm going to tell you today. I'm briefly touch upon some of the aspects in Japan-Pakistan relations, and then I'm also happy to take any questions. This page shows 8 important figures, which we as embassy always take into consideration in planning and executing Japan-Pakistan relations, particularly the size and structure of Pakistan's population, the number of overseas Pakistanis, agricultural produce, and IT human resources. Now, according to some estimates, Pakistan will be surely catching up and surpassing Indonesia and even the United States to become the 3rd largest country in terms of population by the mid of the 21st century. Now, if you turn to the industrial structures, Pakistan is one of the top 10 agriculture producing countries. And with many more things in mind, we continue to conduct our diplomacy with Pakistan. Now, I'd like to particularly share with you how Pakistani expats living in Japan doing quite well as a constructive and law-abiding member of the Japanese society. Pakistanis in Japan contribute to the development of the automobile industries as well as the food industries. But for me personally, I'd like to give a credit to the Pakistani community in Japan. Pakistani community in Japan introduced to Japanese people cricket. Now, thanks to the support from the local community of the Pakistanis in Japan, as of today, more than 300 cricket teams are now registered with Japan's Cricket Council. I strongly believe that Pakistan's future potential mainly derives from Pakistan's strategic location. Pakistan is a gateway to Afghanistan, Central Asian republics, as well as the western part of China. And Pakistan provides these landlocked countries with outlets to the international market. We strongly believe that with the progress in the Afghan peace process, we're gonna see that the very unique opportunity of the creating the regional connectivity and regional economic and social development. And as far as Japan is concerned, we are ready and willing to cooperate with Pakistan. Pakistan helped Japan in the wake of the defeat in the World War II, first diplomatically, then economically. This picture shows you Pakistan's Foreign Minister Zafarullah Khan signed the San Francisco Peace Treaty with Japan. Now, newly independent Pakistan sent a delegation to San Francisco in 1951, together with the allied country to sign the peace treaty with Japan and welcome back Japan into the international community. Then the following year, in 1952, Japan and Pakistan officially established diplomatic relations with opening embassies in Karachi and Tokyo, respectively. Pakistan was one of the largest exporters of cotton yarn, and cotton cloth Japan throughout 1950s, 60s, 70s, and well into 80s. Karachi quickly became one of the 5 largest business centers abroad for Japan, together with New York, London, Hong Kong, and Singapore. In 1957, then Prime Minister of Japan, Kishi, visited Pakistan as the first Japan's Prime Minister. By the way, Prime Minister Kishi was grandfather of the former Prime Minister Abe. This was an epoch-making event, which was an official visit by their Imperial Highnesses, Crown Prince and Princess, in January 1962. They paid an official visit to Pakistan in order to commemorate the 10th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations. So this was one of the most important highlights in the early stage of history between Japan and Pakistan. In spite of the pandemic, this year, both Pakistani and Japanese governments made efforts to continue our dialogue, starting with the official visit of then Economic Minister Azhar to Japan in January, and also in February, President of JICA and a good friend of mine, Dr. Kitaoka, came to Pakistan to meet with your Prime Minister Imran Khan, as well as the Foreign Minister Qureshi. Now, after that, because of the pandemic, we stopped engaging in a face-to-face diplomacy, but still, we organized some of the teleconference, for example, between Foreign Minister Motegi and his counterpart, Foreign Minister Qureshi, and also Defense Minister Kono and General Bajwa, and many more political dialogues took place throughout the year 2020. And President Dr. Alif Alavi visited Japan in 2019, and he participated in the coronation for new emperor. Now, with this as a background, you could easily imagine that both Pakistani and Japanese governments want to realize a new exchange of the visits by both prime ministers in the future, and we are working for that. Improving the economic infrastructures, particularly with emphasis on the water infrastructure, running waters, water management. The second area is improving the human security and social infrastructure with an emphasis on building educational institutions, training institutions, as well as healthcare institutions, and disaster risk and disaster management institutions. And the third area is ensuring the safety and the security, including the security systems for ports, airports, as well as the border control systems. Now, this year witnessed very successful cooperation between Japan and Pakistan in fighting against the common problems of the COVID-19 and the desert locusts. As I told you, Japan, Pakistan enjoyed a great history of the friendship and the cooperations. We are really friends in need. So whenever it is necessary, Japan is ready to cooperate with Pakistani counterparts to deal with many issues which Pakistan has to deal with. Pakistan imports from Japan almost 6 times more than exports to Japan. Trade gap has been a chronicle issue between Japan and Pakistan. We are fully aware of that, and we fully understand that we have to find a way to rectify this trade gap. This page shows you the sum of the priority areas and issues which embassy is now working on. And let me start with the number 1, and that is increase export to Japan. Now, as I told you in the very beginning, Pakistan is one of the top 10 agriculture producing countries in the world. And we also noticed that quite a lot of the Pakistani agricultural produce have quite good reactions in the Japanese market, particularly mangoes, basmati rice, dates, and sesame are very promising items. And the Japanese companies, both here in Pakistan, as well as at the end of the logistics supply chains in Japan, are working very hard, even in spite of the COVID-19 in the year 2020. We succeeded in increasing our import of the mangoes, basmati rice, dates, and sesame to Japan. Let me move to the number 2, and that is the investment promotion. We at Embassy are trying very hard to bring new investment to Pakistan from Japan, and particularly with emphasis on those investments which can substitute the imports or which can strengthen the exports of Pakistan. Japanese companies now interested in investing in areas such as producing dairy products, everyday use products, as well as pharmaceutical products. As for the industries which can strengthen the exporting industries, of course, Japan is very much interested in increasing our investment and diversifying our investment portfolios in automobile industries. Agriculture, as I mentioned, very promising, but exporting agricultural produce is one thing, but we can add value by processing agriculture and even fishing products to produce semi-finished or finished products. Then we can much easily find the markets for Pakistani products. So for that matter, I'd like to particularly emphasize the one of the harbinger investment made by Japanese company named Morinaga Milk. Morinaga Milk opened a full-fledged manufacturing facility in the autumn of 2019 in the Lahore area to produce the dairy products, particularly baby formulas. Now, the pandemic has been hampering international tourism, but I fully understand that tourism is one of the priority areas for Pakistan. And I also remember that there was a time when many Japanese tourists flocked to Pakistan tourist areas. Particularly Pakistan was popular among elderly couples who have a lot of the affordable incomes and leisure time. So I do hope that we could find a way to promote Pakistan as one of the favorite tourist destinations to Japanese customers. And I hope that ever improving security and safety situation in Pakistan makes Pakistan as one of the not only favorite but safest tourist destinations, not in the distant future. Oil and gas, which is believed to be buried a lot in the Balochistan province. This is a very important area where we are looking into opportunities of the investment. And also, some of the Japanese companies have been working very hard to bring LNGs from abroad to Pakistan so that they can cooperate with the Pakistan counterparts. Now, let me turn to the third and one of the most promising areas, and that is a human resource cooperations between Japan and Pakistan. With this as a background, Japanese government signed two important documents with Pakistani government. One is a MOU about technical intern training programs. The second document is MOU about working visa regime for specified skilled workers. Now, in addition to the technical intern programs, which is mainly intended for inviting young Pakistani workers to come to study in Japan, and the working visa regime, which covers 14 areas to provide job opportunities to Pakistani skilled workers. In my conclusion, I can share with you the most important thing which we should do together, and that is, first, we can bring Pakistan back to the front as one of the front runner countries in the relations between Japan and Pakistan. And second, we can work together to improve the perception about Pakistan. Now, I hate to admit, but for many reasons, Pakistan suffered and still suffers from a perception gap between the reality of the Pakistan and image of the Pakistan. So this is an area where we can work together to improve and bring in the true face of Pakistan to Japan. And I do hope that the Karachi Council on Foreign Relations also going to join us in a robust intellectual exchange program, which we are going to create into the year 2021 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kaleem Farooqui, who is the founder member of Pakistan-Japan Business Forum. I'd like to open the floor with his remarks.
Ambassador, I'm waiting for you to come to Karachi. And one other thing that I want is within your tenure to get your Prime Minister here. Last visit of your Prime Minister was in 2005, and you told me that it was almost done for the Prime Minister to come to Pakistan this year. I don't know what has happened. Perhaps you might want to throw some light on it. I land here. Again, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Farooqi-san. Now, I hate to hold the pandemic as only the culprit, but yes, because of the pandemic, we had to change and postpone many diplomatic interactions, including a highest level of the visits between Japan and Pakistan. So let us try to bring back some of the planned events in the year 2021 as well as 2022. By the way, we are going to witness the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations in the year 2022.
His Excellency, I can recall my college days when I used to read that Exim Bank was willing to invest in the Karachi mass transit program of, this came, I think I'm talking about a decade ago or more than a decade ago. It came in the news many times that Japan Exim Bank was ready to invest in Karachi mass transit program, but nothing materialized in this regard. And number two question is, sir, His Excellency, how you define the role of Quad with respect to Pakistan?
Thank you very much for your questions. Regarding Karachi mass transit project and possible investment by Japan's Exim Bank, yes, I remember that there was an original plan, but after that, for many reasons, Japan's participation in financing mass transit has been canceled. Now, having said that, we are also closely following the new Karachi redevelopment project, which has been promoted by the government and also supported by the local business community. So I do hope that in the future, we could find new areas where Japan can be partners in the Karachi redevelopment. Now, regarding questions of the second questions about Quad, which just for those of you who are not familiar with the Quad, which is 4 countries of the United States, Japan, Australia, and India in the making. But when it comes to Quad implications for Pakistan, I can assure you that Quad does not hamper any relations with Pakistan, nor Quad is intended against Pakistan or any other third countries.
One question which has come in the chat box is by Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz. And he is asking you, Excellency, how does Japan view the One Belt, One Road initiative? In particular, CPAC. Do you plan to use the eastern ports of China to export through CPAC to Africa and Pakistan?
I know the background and ideas behind the Belt and Road, which is China's idea of the providing economic and social infrastructures to many countries located throughout the Eurasian continent, as long as the coastline of the Eurasians. And we fully understand that there continues to be a great gap between supply and demand of the economic and social infrastructures. And for that matter, in addition to China, Japan, and many other countries, as well as international organizations such as ADB, Asia Development Bank, World Bank, and many other institutions are working and continue to work for narrowing this gap. Here, I'd like to emphasize, particularly in the case of the CPEC, we closely follow the development of the projects under the CPEC, and we see that some of the projects are really conducive to the inviting a new investment from the third countries, including Japan, while other projects provide opportunities for the private sector's participations. So this is how Japan and Japanese business sectors approach Belt and Road and CPEC.
My question to Excellency is, since he mentioned about Pakistan and Japan tourism relations, is that if we want to invite, after the pandemic situation is a bit stable, the top tour operators from Japan who could promote Pakistan as a tourist destination, especially for the religious tourism, which is Buddhist tourism. And my second question is, how can we invite the Japanese investors who would be interested in investment in Pakistan in terms of building 5-star resorts in the northern areas of Pakistan?
First, we would like to bring back a group of the Japanese tourists and the travel companies back to Pakistan so that we can, of course, with the cooperation from the Pakistani side to organize that, tour of the promising tourist spots so that first, they can start to plan their own tourist promotions from Japan as well as the third countries, Pakistan. And second, they can also find new investment opportunities for some of the areas, including hotels and logistics and restaurants. And to be frank, for great tourist, for any country which would like to be a great tourist destinations, there are at least one thing which should not be neglected, and that is a presence of good Japanese restaurants.
Excellency, there are a couple of questions in the chat box with regard to the human resource that you just mentioned, signing of MOU. So people are interested as to when this is likely to begin.
There are three areas which Pakistani promising people can apply for with employment opportunities either in Japan or with Japanese companies. And let me start with highly skilled workers in the ICT area, information and communication technologies. Actually, we are already working on that, both with the Pakistani side and with Japanese side. And there are already several Japanese human resources companies which are interested in first opening their branch in Pakistan, particularly they're interested in the Karachi areas. So I do hope that, sometime in the year 2021, we are going to see that new Japanese companies opening up in Karachi.
Excellency, we at the Employees Federation of Pakistan have a very strong relationship with the AOTS in Tokyo, and hundreds and hundreds of over the years Pakistanis have been provided training in Japan by AOTS. Of course, this year on Zoom, but they came here, including the managing director came, and now things have improved a lot, and they are now thinking of enhancing the training programs in Pakistan, which will in future help a lot of our people to go over there and train.
I do hope that your embassy in Tokyo also help Japanese human resource companies, Japanese companies who are interested in inviting technical trainees, or those who are going to apply for the 14 specified working visa regimes. Now, as for my embassy, we recently hired new Pakistani staff she can speak impeccable Japanese, and she's also helping here in Pakistan those Pakistani companies and Pakistani individuals who are interested in getting information about how to apply through one of three channels to get employment in Japan or with Japanese companies.
I'm coming to the vote of thanks by our chairman, Mr. Ikram Sehgal, who, as you know, is heading the largest group of security companies of Pakistan. Those who do not know him much, he's a graduate of Pakistan Military Academy, Kakul, and a former major commanding a rifle company in December 1971. He holds a commercial pilot license, and I'm told that he's certified by the Civil Aviation Authority. So that not to worry the PIA. He has the interest in subjects like defense. He has the honor to introduce Pakistan to Davos by setting up a permanent Pakistan pavilion since last 18 years. He has authored many books and currently contributes to 15 newspapers and magazines in 6 countries every week. So Mr. Ikram Sehgal is requested to share his views.
Excellency, what a tremendous hour that we've had. I must tell you that it's been a revelation to hear all the things that you managed to tell us within this hour. As the presentation was excellent by any standards, the knowledge that we have gained, and a lot of other people have gained, and as you know, that even though the participants may be limited in this sense, but by tomorrow when the actual complete video will be available on the YouTube and other website, Facebook, you will see that hundreds of thousands of people would have seen this program. Excellency, Pakistan and Japan, like you have said, have had a long relationship, and we are very grateful to Japan because you've always been of great assistance to us. And we have historical and, let us say, connections, which you have mentioned, particularly the Buddhist religious sites, which I think need to be expanded. Then, obviously, what is of great interest is the human exchange which will take place. Because, as you know, we are looking to diversify our manpower, skilled manpower particularly, which needs to be this thing, because obviously the other, let us say, sources are drying up, and we need to diversify. I think you have some excellent ideas, and I really commend my colleagues, Mr. Moin Fudda, the Secretary General, Commodore Sadeed Malik, my very good friend Kaleem Farooqui, and others of my colleagues, and I look forward to further interaction. I'm not going to limit to one small thing like that. Anytime that you feel that there is something that can add to the relationship between Pakistan and Japan, anything that can foster this thing, because I was very interested seeing not many people know about the long coastline that Pakistan, the coastline has never been exploited, that needs exploitation, that needs investment, that needs people to come and see what else can happen. All these things, if it can be brought together, I think we can add, certainly $1 billion from your side and maybe $160 million from our side is not much. This must expand manifold, but more than the money is the human-to-human contact, which I think not only your predecessor, you have carried on in that way, and we are very grateful to you for having been with us during this hour. Thank you, Excellency.